How are you guys? Welcome to my first YouTube live stream ever. I've been a guest on 4 other people's channels, but this is my first live stream ever. Thank you for coming. So hopefully this will be worth your while. Hopefully it'll be a lot of fun for you. So this is my inspiration drawing that I did. I posted this on my Instagram and in my YouTube post earlier this week. And thank you for the likes, the 2 of you that like this. I appreciate that. This is my inspiration drawing for this. I went and bought a bunch of materials today, and I went out and collected them all, and we're going to work with them. We're going to make something super cool today. So my goal is to show you guys as much as I can. I'm going to try to do this in 3 hours or less. If things dry fast enough and we can get to painting it, then we totally will. But right now it is looking like we might be able to just do the model. We'll see. But I will post this live stream, of course, when it's done. But right now is where you can ask questions and leave them in the chat, talk to each other, and hopefully this goes well. Let me flip my camera around after I put it in the right position. Look up my nose for a sec. Here we go. Got a little Joe Rogan in the corner there. There's a, that's my my backup to check my streaming here. Okay, so that's the inspiration drawing. This is meant to be for 1/6 scale. So what we are going for here is a display for a Hot Toys action figure. We're going to use my Hot Toys animated Boba Fett figure as a stand-in because my tank trooper did not arrive when it was supposed to. It's probably going to be arriving Tuesday. So we're going to use him as a stand-in for the figure, but these are the rough dimensions. And so I always do some sketches like this. I was even thinking about putting some Arabesh text into the diorama, like scratching it into the wall like hieroglyphics. But these were all the different ideas that I kind of had. And basically, we're going to make a base, a back wall, a side step, possibly some kind of a front detail here, depending on how it looks as we go. We're going to use 2 different types of foam. So the first one we're going to work with is floral foam. This is or dry foam, better known as dry foam. I've done 2 different streams of this on my Instagram, but I wanted to show you guys live how to work with this over here on YouTube and take a little bit more time. So this is dry foam. I just call it floral foam because it's used for plants. You just cut it off, stick it inside of a planter and stick your plants in there. You can also use real plants in there and water this because it absorbs water. It's very absorbent material, so there's a specific way that I actually stiffen this foam. We're going to go over that. But first things first, I want to cut the layout here. And we're going to start with what I think most of you use for your dioramas, and I recommend that you use. We are going to use this 2x2 foot sheet of XPS insulation foam. I just bought this a couple hours ago or an hour ago at Home Depot. It's 1 inch thick and by 2 feet by 2 feet. This is XPS insulation foam. It's called High Performance. The brand is Foamular. It's got a pink panther on it. But these sheets, they sell at Home Depot. What's up, Eli, Star Marvel 76? Good to see you, my friend. Hello, everybody who is stopping by. We got 4 likes and 9 people here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So this is what most of you would start with. This is a project board that's 2 feet by 2 feet, okay? So we're going to break this down. I'm going to show you, like, just literally from scratch how to start and hopefully finish a diorama, or at least the modeling of one in 3 hours. Something to note about XPS foam when you buy these project sheets. Many of them, if you look here at the width of the line, it's very flat. And then right here at the end, it curves up just a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see that. It starts to curve up. Sometimes it's like the last 3 inches or 4 or even 6 inches. When it gets pressed through the roller and this hard insulation foam comes out, it tends to want to tip up, and that's what causes this, at least that I think. That's my understanding of how this gets caused. So if you use this section, just know that it's curving up a little bit. So I generally cut this section off. You might have just heard my shop fan turn on. I generally cut this section off so that I have nothing but flat surface to work with. So we've got flat surface over here and a little bit of a curved surface going on right here. So we're going to cut this off. I'm going to do this with a utility knife to show you that it is possible to get a mostly clean cut with a utility knife. We are also going to use a hot wire foam cutter, all right? So starting from scratch. And my inspiration piece here, the base, I'm going to want 12 inches wide, 9 inches deep, and 15 inches tall. This is designed to basically fit inside of a D-tolf. You could do the base deeper if you wanted to, but I'm just going to do this for simplicity's sake. So the biggest dimension that we have here is 15 inches. So and we also have a 12-inch wide dimension. So I got to pick one of the two bigger dimensions is my recommendation to start with, because when you make a long cut, when you have one of these dimensions dialed in on your piece of foam, then you can make the other cuts that you need to make off of that one length that you cut at that width. If that makes sense, you'll see what I mean here in a sec. So I'm going to start with a 12-inch dimension because I'm going to have two pieces that are 12 inches wide here. All right, understand what I'm getting at? I'm going to start from the non-curled side of the foam, and I'm going to use this T measuring tool here, this T-square by Westcott, just to save some time. And let me grab my big knife wherever it went. Here it is. And I like to use these extendable blades here. I think my blade is sharp. We'll find out in a second. But I'm just going to mark it with a Sharpie. I like to use a Sharpie right there at 12 inches. And then I'm going to mark it down here again at 12 inches, just to give myself a little bit of a guide. And then I am right-handed, so I'm going to put the marks on the right side of my ruler. And this is where it's important. You want to make sure your blade is as straight up and down as possible, not tilted this way, not tilted that way, as straight up and down. So perpendicular, right? You remember your geometry, perpendicular to the table. And especially for your first few passes, because you're going to do multiple passes. If you go at an angle, you're not going to get a straight cut. So you want to make sure, especially these first two, are as straight as possible, and then you can start to push harder. And then your cut will get really, really straight. So hang in there for me. I'm actually going to move the camera over here, and so I can get a safer cut here. All right? So I'm just holding this in place, and I'm going to keep my knife as perpendicular as I can. All right, I think I only went about that far down on the knife with that cut. I'm going to go again. Hello, Fishnet Creative Studio. Good to see you. Fishnet, I have to tell you, you know Star Marvel and Star Marvel knows you, but I don't think Star Marvel knows he knows you. Remind me to tell you later how you know Fishnet Star Marvel. So I'm just doing multiple passes here, and you can see the blade is going a little bit deeper every time. Toy Malarkey, what's going on? Good to see you here. Jim Hancock, hello. So I've done multiple passes, and it's starting to cut through this side. I can feel it. It still needs more cutting over here, but now that I've done this many passes, you see how when I lift the foam up and I tilt it, you can see the seam that I've created? So I am going to just use the foam now and not let my knife swerve. I'm just going to use the foam without my straight edge now that I've cut probably about that deep in with the knife, and I should be able to make the rest of my cuts. All right, so here we go. Beautiful sound. How's the sound? Is the sound okay for you guys? Can you hear what I'm doing? Let me know if it's not. If it's like washed out, I can turn off my shop fans if they're too loud. Look at that. So let me move my camera again. And there is our cut. So it's tilting a little bit to the right. You can see it's like a little bit like that, but that's pretty good, you know, for a quick knife cut. So I'm going to call that good. This is our 12-inch piece. I can show you how to knock that down in a second. Good, sounds good. Super duper. All right, so that is my 12-inch wide piece. Again, going back to our reference drawing, that is the front width of our diorama. Now we want the back, so I'm only going to go, and this piece is 24 inches wide. So keep that in mind when you're cutting. You want to compensate for the width and height of the pieces, because if I wanted to cut, let's say, 14 inches deep and 14 inches tall, that's 28 inches. I don't have enough foam here, so I'm going to need a second sheet of foam, right? So I have two pieces that are 12 inches wide now. Hey, what's up, Rob Ewing? Thank you for joining from Canada. I appreciate that. Good to see everybody here. Thank you so much. We got 15 people in here and 10 likes. That is an awesome ratio. I appreciate that, especially for my first stream. I am super excited and slightly stressed out, but I'm happy you're all here. So we got 12 inches here, which is our width, and we want to make sure we have our depth and our height. So if we add 9 to 15, we get 24 inches, right? So if I cut 9 inches back and then I cut whatever I have left, that'll end up being the top of my diorama, okay? When I cut this though, I might need to actually cut an inch off because I want my total height to be 15. So I don't want it to end up when I stack it on top of this 1 inch base, right? 9 and 15, when I stack it on top, it's actually going to end up being 16. So I might have to get my hot wire foam cutter out and do that cut so I have a nice clean cut. Another thing you want to make sure you do carefully when you're planning for a specific height. In this case, I'm planning for 15 inches because according to my math, that's about, when you divide a detolf into 4 sections, 15 inches is roughly the max height you can get. So I'm doing this with a detolf glass shelf in mind, okay? So that's why I might have to cut an inch off, or I'm going to have to cut an inch off to make it work, okay? So here we are. Leave my inspiration drawing up here, and we're going to go 9 inches back. I'm going to use this awesome tool again, my T-square tool. I'm going to go 9 inches over, mark it at 9 inches. I'm going to do another one. I like to do 2 marks because sometimes if I push into the foam with my tool, it might get a little off kilter like this or like this. So I like to do 2 marks. It doesn't have to be all the way at the end and all the way at the other end, but 2 marks helps me make sure that my line is straight relative to the one that I'm measuring off of, so that everything is geometrically perpendicular and square. Very important, otherwise your diorama will look funky when you're done. 9 inches. So let me do a quick check. This is something I like to do. This is meant to be for 1/6 scale action figures. So this is a 1/6 scale action figure. This is my animated Boba Fett. Does that look like enough space? Really, we only need to look at the feet here. So if we have a back wall and another wall here, I think that's enough for just a 1-figure display. That's really all we're going for here, is a 1-figure display. We're going to keep it simple today. I'm known for doing giant projects, but I'm going to keep it simple here today, so we can try to do this in 3 hours. So we've got this base, and he's going to be this way with a back wall. I think that's enough space. What do you guys think? You think that's enough space? I think it's enough space. Okay. It's enough space. I've convinced myself. Sold! Sold to Oilers Workshop. Okay, so again, I've got 2 marks here. I'll move the camera here to the side so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to try to keep my knife as perpendicular to the bottom of my cutting mat as I can. And my first few passes are the most important, okay? To keep my cut straight. So we go 1. You see I went about 1/8 of an inch deep. You know what? Let me move this over somewhere. There you go. Another 1/8 of an inch. Another 1/8 of an inch. And once you get to where you can kind of feel that you're more than halfway through the foam, that's when I take this off of here. And you can see again, when I bend the foam, you can see that there's a seam there now, but it can act as a guide for my cutting. Keep your hand away from the blade, kids. Be careful. And now I can push a little bit harder to get that cut. All right, so this one's at a little bit of an angle too, but again, I'll show you how to knock that down in a sec. I'm doing this quick so we can all see this, but you see it is tilted a little bit. I'll show you how to knock that down. So now we have the base of the diorama, and then we'll be able to do the back wall now, because see, now we have 2 pieces that are 12 inches wide. And I'm going to stack this one on top of the other one, and now this is going to be too tall. So just to show you, if I flip this down and I've got this stacked on top of this, see that? We're at 16 inches. So I want it to be 15. I could, yes, I know what you're saying. I could just do this and put that in front. I find though, when I do a back wall attached flat to the outside edge of a base, it's not as strong. When I put a back wall on top and the weight goes down and works with gravity, even though I'm going to glue it, it works with gravity, it's much more stable. I also find this to be true when I'm magnetizing dioramas. We're not going to magnetize this diorama, we're going to actually glue this one because it's going to be a small piece. But I find it more structurally sound when you put the sidewalls on top of the base instead of the base intersecting with the sidewalls, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to cut 1 inch off of this. Now I'm going to switch to my hot wire foam cutter so you guys can see basically how I set that up. All right. 18 lovely people in here. And just a reminder, I do have channel Hey, Jason's here, my man. I do have channel memberships available now. Speaking of people who just walked in, I did speak to my Patreon subscribers, and I am actually, the reason I offer channel memberships now is because I decided to change it up a little bit. I pursued Patreon for about a year, and I decided to put that at least on hold for a time, probably on hold for a while. You know, maybe down the road I'll change my thinking on that. But for now, I put that on hold, and I recommended my Patreon subscribers to move over here to my YouTube channel and subscribe here, because I'm going to make it cheaper and I'm going to be able to do more content. All right, there's going to be more member exclusive stuff and perks than I'm able to do over on Patreon, and trying to get people to go to 2 separate platforms to support me and to enjoy what I'm making. It's a little bit cumbersome for people, so I understand why they might have some trouble getting over to Patreon. So it just made more sense to do the channel memberships over here and include stuff from my Patreon subscribers over here instead. So they are all migrating over here now. So that is why I no longer do Patreon. I've taken it out of all my community stuff so that everybody doesn't go there. Hey, Star Marble, random. Would you paint styrene with a brush? Thank you for the super chat. You're awesome, my brother. Styrene with a brush. Star Marble is asking about this material, styrene. You can, but the thing is, it doesn't absorb paint. It doesn't soak up paint, and so when you run a brush across it, you're gonna get lines from the brush pretty much no matter what. So I usually spray paint or do a base coat, and then I'll go over it with washes and things depending on what I'm doing. So I generally don't brush paint onto styrene unless it needs a brush look. So like staircase, or not staircase, but fire escape that I recently did that you see on my Instagram, I did the initial layer of that with spray paint, because there's some styrene in that. There's other materials too, like foam board and whatnot. But the initial layer is spray paint, but with washes and some brush marks and touch-ups, that was done with a brush to give it a more rough feel. So that's probably the most concise answer I can give for that. So what I'm doing here is, this is the hot wire foam factory cutter I've been using for like 5 years. I've gotten so used to using this that I probably won't pursue getting a fancier one, although they are out there. This works just fine for me. You plug it in, the wire gets hot, and you make cuts. But I do know that for me, because this wire is set in the center of this mark, I need to set it at 1 inch here, and I measure from my fence over to here, which is 4 and just under 3/8, and then 4 and just under 3/8, and I lock this one into position, and 4 and under 3/8, lock this one into position. And now when I slide my foam through here, it'll give me a 1 inch cut. So that's the only drawback, is I have to measure to make sure it's lined up properly. If you have the fancier ones, there's guides and stuff already there for you. I actually have one of those coming that I ordered on Kickstarter over 2 years ago, but because of the world situation has been, it's been delayed quite a bit. But when that shows up, you'll guys see a review of that. We'll see a review of that here, and it's not a Proxon. It's actually something totally different. It's called a Doer, if you want to go get one. So I'm going to take my side that's at an angle, and I'm going to cut that side off. I'm just going to cut that side off. This one, it can cut up to, let me show you. This one can cut up to, whoops, wrong way. It can cut about 10 inches. So this one can cut about 10 inches. I stick to usually things about 6 inches or shorter, just so I can get cleaner cuts. But to get rid of this side, I'm going to use my hot wire foam cutter and just pass it through. I plugged it in over on the side, and there we go. Basically, you can just use this like you can a bandsaw or a jigsaw. So you can even take the fence away if you want and start got a little wobbly cut there. You can take the fence away and do like rotary cuts. You can trace a pattern or a design on your foam and move it through the foam and make whatever shape cut that you want. There's even little tricks on this and how to do circle cuts, which I'll probably show in another video. We're not going to do any circles today. But this is how I do a lot of my foam cutting. Just very cautiously like this. Boom. So what I do with these cutoffs too, see how this has a unique shape to it? It's got 2 right angles. It's actually a trapezoid instead of a square. I'll use this for detail, adding concrete or dimension. I might even use it on this piece later, depending on how far we get, adding some type of detail with my cutoffs. I always save like good long cutoffs that have like at least 1 straight edge. I'll throw those in a bin and set those to the side and use them later, so I don't have to cut new material every time I want to make a detail. I can just go through my scrap foam and find something to use. So there is my lovely clean cut with this. There's a little bit of circular banding you see because I was pushing it fast, and so the wire bent a little bit. But honestly, by the time I'm done, none of that will be seen. There's a little wibbly wobbly cut there, but it won't matter with how we're going to glue this together, but I'll show you how to get rid of it. This is a sanding block. This is 120 grit sandpaper. You can see it under there, P120, and it goes on the sanding block. 120, if you don't push really hard, it won't smar up the foam. It'll actually knock it down. So you see right here, sorry, find a better angle here. All right, so there is our edge. I'm just going to look at that. It's already almost gone. There's a little bit of a nubbin right there, but I'll probably just leave that alone. And you see now all those lines are mostly gone. You could just keep doing this a few more times and you have a mostly smooth surface. So over here on our first cut that we did where this one is at a slight angle, I could run this through the hot wire foam cutter with a really small edge. Thank you, Jason. You can count on my continued support on YouTube. I appreciate it, and that's exactly why I moved over here. It makes more sense for people like you, if you want to keep following me and keep supporting my work, to be over here, be a member of this channel. There's a bigger audience here, and it's a little bit more easier for me to produce better stuff for everybody. So that's why I'm here. Thank you for being here. So over here on this side, again, this is where that angle cut is. I could cut it off on the hot wire foam cutter, and I could bring that fence in real tight, but I'm just going to show you how easy it is with the sanding block. I'm not holding it at the angle that it's at. I'm holding it at the angle that I want, so I'm pulling it off just a little bit. Jason, I cannot wait to see what you do with that diorama. I am so excited to see that. Jason just got my latest diorama. He was one of my commissioners we did a lovely trade for, and you'll get to see his handiwork in some of my future videos, so stick around for that. So this does create a little bit of foam dust, but it's not much, so just keep that in mind. There's a lot of dust on there. I don't want to tap this, otherwise it'll go all over the table. All right, so now, look at that. So it's a little rounded over, but you get the idea. A little flatter. You just keep working at it. It'll start to look pretty good. All right. So if you Fishnet, if you go to my main page where you can hit subscribe on the main channel, there's a join button. You might have one on a mobile device at the bottom under the video where it says join. That's where you would go to do that. And it's got a little preview. I will record a little intro video for people who want to join the channel, explaining what they're going to get and what I'm going to offer. But it's already listed there. I just don't have the intro video for it because I just set it up a couple days ago. So this is, if I can find it, these are the pieces that we cut apart. And you see now all the edges have changed. And now I can flip this. Oops. I can put this on its side. Let me show you where the dimension is at now. And we have 15 inches. It's 15 1/8 of an inch, but I think my actual measurement for a detolf was like 15 3/8. So this should fit just fine. All right. So here is the back wall and the base. And then, if I can reach my drawing that I pushed all the way over here. Okay. I wanted to make this look like JEDHA City from Rogue One, or at least inspired by. This specific shape that comes down here and turns forward, if you just go on Google Images and you search JEDHA City from Star Wars, there's a building that shows up with this really big sweeping shape. If I did it to scale, it would be like 9 inches wide, and it would go up like 2 feet. But I just wanted to emulate that sort of vibe of JEDHA instead of do an actual replication. I just wanted to look like you could find this in the city. So I'm going to use a 2-inch piece of foam. Now, I said at the beginning of this video, or beginning of the stream, that I actually went shopping right before this, and I show in that shopping video where you can get the 2-inch wide foam, which I will post later this week. I just got to chop it together. But you can see in that shopping video for the stream where you can get this. It's at Home Depot. It's on the same aisle next to these, but you might miss it if you don't know exactly where it is. So I'll show you where that is. Let me run over and grab a 2-inch piece. I forgot to grab one. They're just right over there. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Don't leave me. There it is. Okay. Here's the 2-inch foam. So this is the 2-inch foam and this is the 1-inch foam. Look at that. Math. So this is a rough cut, and just so you know, these little marks in the bigger pieces of foam that you get in the 4-foot by 8-foot sheets, which is how I normally buy this now, these bigger pieces have this because these are designed to go in between wood studs in a wall. So this is actually home insulation foam. And the reason it has these is so that guys working on a job site can do this. And they can just break it open and they can shove that 15-inch wide piece or what, 14-inch wide piece right in between the studs and then nail the drywall over it. So that's why those are there. If you've seen those and you've wondered why they're there, now you know. So, but it actually gives you instant texture. Check that out. You break that off and you get some pretty cool instant texture that you could utilize. I've done that a couple of times. So now I need to cut a piece that is 15 inches tall and however deep forward I want out of this. So I'm going to go back to my hot wire foam cutter for that. So we're just cutting our pieces now. We've got our base, we've got our back wall. Going to go back to the hot wire foam cutter and fix my little jumper here. Okay. And I'm going to have to cut this based off the maximum width I can get off this piece because it kind of wobbles in here. So it looks like maybe 3.5 inches. So what I'm going to do, this is a wobbly edge and this is a wobbly edge. I'm going to run this edge through the hot wire foam cutter to give myself a flat edge to work with, which will help me. But I'm also going to cut off some of this extra foam I don't need at the top. So I'll probably just break that because I only need this to be 15 inches. So I'm going to overcut it just so I have some stuff to cut off when I square everything up. So I'm going to mark 16 here. And then I'm just going to run it through the hot wire cutter roughly. I'm not going to worry about a straight cut because I just need to get this off of here. I don't want to use my blade because it's the 2-inch foam. It'll do it. It'll do it. It's going. I promise. The 2-inch, my jumper must not be working very well. There we go. If you don't have the jumper, there we go. Cut it much faster. So there's a little jumper piece right here that connects the top and the and brings the hot connection down, the electrical connection, to make the lower portion of the wire much hotter. And so the connection wasn't touching metal to metal as well as it could. There's burnt foam on this and stuff over the years that has cleaned this up. I should probably scrape that off, but I just fixed that. That's the reason for that. And so now I'm going to flatten this edge over here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring this fence up, and I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to use my eye to get it really, really close here so I can just cut off a sliver. So I just get a straight cut. So let me move the camera out of the way. And so you can see here, I'm just going to hold this as straight as I can and let the wire cut through the foam to give me a straight edge to cut off of. And so this is how I call it making foam lumber. I will cut down foam into sizes like this. If it's chipped or broken or it's got dents in it, I'll just shave off a piece so I can keep working from it, especially if it's a large piece of thick foam like this that I need. Thank you guys for the likes. I really appreciate it. There's my thing is showing 18 of you in here with 14 likes, which is absolutely unbelievable. I really appreciate it. Oh, 17. It's dropping. People are getting bored with the foam cutting. So this is the patient part of the diorama making, is making these long hot wire foam cuts, but they pay off and they're worth it in the end. Feel free to ask any questions too. I'll try to see what you're asking as I go, and if I missed a question, I apologize. So now that I've got that cut, see that? I have a nice flat edge to work with. Now I can cut the width that I want and have 2 straight edges. So I got to find my smallest point because that's essentially what I can work off of here. Or I guess I could cut off the bottom here because I could have it swing down here. So yeah, let me do that. So now I'm going to measure, I need to cut off this flat because this is going to be the bottom. So see what I'm saying here? I'm going to cut this swoop down here, and I want it to be as wide as possible. So I'm going to use down here, and I can cut a perpendicular line here and then do my swoop up and have a bigger swoop than I would if I did it at this end. So planning. Let me get my square angle right here. Handy to have around the shop. So I'm just going to set this edge right here on the foam. Slide this down. Make a mark. Like that. You can see I use my Sharpie on this all the time. I like Sharpie on foam. I don't know why. I like it better than pen or pencil because it like tears the foam. A Sharpie doesn't do that. Does the hot wire foam create any fumes? It does, but they dissipate really, really fast. So if you're sensitive to fumes, it's not a bad idea to wear like a mask, kind of like this one. But they're little fumes and they dissipate really, really fast. So I wouldn't worry too much about it unless you're doing really long extended cuts in an enclosed space that's very tiny. Excuse me. Then you might need to set up a fan, or you might want to wear a mask depending on your personal health. So that's just what I would say. But you can barely see the wisps of smoke coming off of this and they dissipate instantly. So I am going to take this mark I just made and cut myself a straight line on my wire cutter. And I'm going to eyeball this one because I have a wobbly edge here. If I try to do it on the fence, it's going to cut at an angle or whatever the angle is created by that. So we're just going to do this one by eye since it's a shortcut. It's a shortcut. And this will give me a corner. And this corner piece that will get created here by this sort of swoop down will actually add structure and stability to my overall piece. And this is where I don't stress too much about the wibbly wobbly I'm going to get out of this cut, because as you saw earlier, and I'll do again here, you can just knock it down with sandpaper. So we got a little wibbly wobbly. There's a little thing going on there. Not worried about it. We can just take the 120 grit sandpaper and there we go. So there's a couple of, you can see the highs and the lows, but this is going to be planted on the ground, so I'm not worried about it. As long as this side to this side is nice and perpendicular, that's all that we care about, which it looks like it's pretty darn perpendicular. Cool. So now is where I might want to do a little freehand sketching to get this swoop. Sorry, not now. Let me cut my 15-inch dimension. Sorry, I'm very excited doing this stream. It's my first one, so I'm getting a little ahead of myself on some stuff. So I've got my longer ruler here. I've got a billion rulers. You're going to see me pull them out as we go here. So 15 inches is the top. So now it's a little bit of design decision time. Do I want to try to make this swoop go all the way up to that top edge? Do I want to stop it short? Do I want it to go up and angle out? This is an opportunity here with your cuts to actually add more detail to your piece. So I'm thinking actually, now that I'm looking at this, I might want to swoop it up and then do a slight angle. I think that might be just add a little bit more detail. Instead of just having a flat plane, I could have a flat plane into an angle, and then it just might create some more interest, if you understand what I'm saying. So we'll do that. So maybe, I got to guess here, this is 15 inches tall. Maybe we'll go like 13 inches? No, let's go a little farther. Let's go 12 inches tall. So we'll do that. So it's basically the height of the action figure that's going to stand next to it. We'll go 12 inches. So I'm going to mark 12 inches on my phone, which is roughly right there. And then I want maybe the little shelf that I'm talking about. I'm going to do like this, either like this or like this. I don't know. I'm going to paint over this so it doesn't matter if I draw on the foam, but something like that, and then have it swoop down. What do you think? Should I go flat or should I go to an angle? Let me know. Put an F in the chat or an A in the chat. Flat angle, flat angle. Let me know. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. A. All right, we got an A. We'll do that. So we'll do the angle. Thank you, Mr. Jim Harnock. Oh, we got an F. We got two competing letters, not numbers. What am I talking about? I'm going to go with the A because that's the first one I saw. Angle. We got another angle. Okay. So I'm going to do a little drafting trick here. And I'm going to use my finger as a guide so I can use my pen as a scribe. Let me move my camera again. You can see what I'm about to do because I'm right-handed. Okay, so I'm going to use my finger to hold my pen in the same place relative to this edge. And I'm going to start a little bit higher because I'm going to want this to swoop up. I don't want to draw through my swoop. So I'm going to start maybe right here. And I'm just going to, I got to take a measurement here. So I don't want it to be out here or in here. I'm going to take a measurement with my finger here, and I'm going to lock my other fingers onto this finger. You guys get what I'm doing, right? And take my measurement. And I don't need it to be perfect. Now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to drag that line. Boom. So a little wibble at the front, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to be cutting this. Now I'm going to just freehand swoop it down. I'm not going to worry too much about it. Boom. Just like that. And cool thing about foam, when I cut this out, I'm going to use my hot wire foam cutter to cut this out. I will have the opposing shape cut out as well. So if I wanted to make more details, I've already got an opposing mirror image piece that I can cut stuff off of. So you'll see what I mean in a second. So this here, I just made an executive decision. This is a continuing angle down, and this is a straight to a swoop. I changed it. This is how I do it. It's a very fluid process, but again, this is just an inspiration drawing. You just came from buying foam at Home Depot. So did I. Again, I'll have that shopping video up for you, what I bought for this diorama. Freehand Swoop is a great band name. That is an awesome band name. Kind of like Crab Shrapnel. I think there's some comedian who made a joke about band names, and he made up the band name Crab Shrapnel. So this is where you have to be brave here with your foam cutter. I'm going to freehand this through my wire. So I'm going to go at an angle, and then I'm going to go straight. I'm not going to freak out if it's not perfect because we have our handy dandy sanding block. I also have another tool I might use later called rasp. You guys probably know what that is, but that can also knock down foam inside of curves. So we'll see how we do. We'll see how straight the cut is. I'm going to go over here. Oops, see, I already started in the wrong place. That's okay. I can fix that later. One of the techniques I use for doing this freehand stuff too in the foam is kind of have to become a little bit of a breakdance artist. You have to pop and lock your way through it. If you kind of subconsciously choose 2 pivot points, one on each arm, and just move those 2 points, like right now, I'm moving my shoulders, but I'm letting my elbows relax, and it's helping to keep my line mostly straight. So when you're trying to do freehand straight lines or even curves, just kind of letting your body move as you choose one muscle group and move it helps me bandsaw my way through this. And just a little word of advice, if you haven't used hot wire foam cutters before, once you start your cut, you're going to want to keep it going. If you stop, the heat from the wire will create a hot zone and it will create like a weird indentation. I'll show you what I mean in just one sec. Let me just get this cut done. Boom. There it is. So this, I'm not worried about this because we're going to cover this with texture later. So there's a detail like that. There's a detail like that. I could cut this in half. I could have 2 details. Instant detail. So what I was talking about with the continuous cut, if I start my cut like this, get you a little closer. Boom. Okay. Get you a little closer. And I sit here. Watch what happens. See that? It's creating a hot zone and it's making this weird little hole. So now my clean cut is not so clean anymore. You can also use that as a sculpting technique. So my clean cut's not clean if you sit there. So you want it, once you start committing to the cut and you want it to be clean, you got to keep rolling through the cut. But you can also use this as a sculpting tool if you need to get fine details for other things. Little trick. So we've got 2 intersecting pieces now. Let me readjust Mr. Camera. JB Collection, what's up? This is a hot wire foam cutter. See that? It's a hot wire foam factory. This is plugged in and it's got about, I think it's got about 12 volts running through it. And it's running down this wire here. See the wire? It's in front of my hand. that wire is now hot, not like super hot. You will burn yourself if you hold your finger on it, but it's just a little bit hot. And now I can cut foam on it. And I can do scroll cuts and create all kinds of little interesting shapes. All right, that's what I'm using. Get yourself, you don't have to have this one too. There's multiple ones I was explaining at the beginning of the stream, but we've got a hot wire cutter. There's also handheld ones where you can plunge it and rotate it around. There's ones that look like slingshots that have a wire where you can carve like that. I have those. We're not going to use those in this video. I'll do those in a future video, but just trying to do the basic stuff so you guys understand how to do a basic 3-wall diorama. So we have 2 pieces here. I could use this piece and make other details if I want. So I might make some executive decisions later and do that. But for now, all we need is this. Let me flip the camera up a little higher, move it over. Again, this is the inspiration piece, and I just cut this piece. Oops, I just cut this piece right here out of foam. So this is my base, and this is my back wall. And let me get a little tool here that I use to hold foam together, because clearly that's not stable. Sewing needle pins. So these are smaller ones. I have some bigger ones. I need to get some more bigger ones, but I will just use these to hold the foam in place so I can keep making adjustments before I commit to gluing. So I'm just going to stick one here in the end, and I will I'll use my square here to make sure it's lined up nice and level to the base, and then put one this way. Put another one from the front going back, and then let me put this in here and do another one back here. Oh, you can't see that one, can you? Do another one back here, another one farther down, and now it's less wobbly, so if I move it around, it's not going to fall over on me. And then I can take our other detail piece here. Let me flip this up for you guys. You can see my messy shop in the background. And we can set this in our corner here. And now we've got some real detail going on. We've got some shapes happening. So, I have an idea. I'm going to move this over a little bit. And maybe, would this look cool here? I think that would look cool there. If I put that shape right there. What do you think? Yes, no, maybe? Let's see. Good night, everybody. Or Garth, if you're taking off, thank you for coming by. So it keeps hiding the live chat on me, so I apologize, guys. I'm not seeing you. I have to keep clicking my live chat on my phone. So I'm going to make a secondary detail with this. Again, fluid process here. Let's get back on the hot wire foam cutter. And now I have to create I got to cut a flat bottom here and do a perpendicular across it. So let's do that really quick. So I know this front edge, at least for right here, is flat. So if I use my angle on the front edge there, see how it wants to roll? If I just hold it flat there, I can draw myself a straight line right there. And give myself a little cut. Sorry, that didn't sound right. Cut this off right here. And make that slice with the hot wire cutter. And I'm just holding the fence in place instead of locking it down. I get moving very quick when I'm working with foam on my own. When I know what I'm trying to do, I just start moving. And I just hold the fence where I need it to. You get to go a little bit quicker that way. So I'm going to hold, I think it's going to, and this might wibble wobble too much if I try to draw a straight line with this off this small side. So I'm actually going to line this up here on my mat. And here, we'll line it up this way so you guys can see what I'm doing. I'm going to line this up on my mat this way. And what I'm doing is I'm lining up this flat edge on a line and this flat edge on a line like that. Boom. Okay. And then I'm going to line up my ruler by eye, right? Let me move this over so you can see what I'm doing over here now. line that up again. So I'm going to line up my ruler on this line, and I'm going to look at it over here. And you can do this at any angle as long as you stay fixed on the 2 points. I'm going to line it up. I'm looking at this with my eye. It's lined up with a mark here and then the corresponding mark up there. So now, if I do this, yes, thank you. Please hit that like. I appreciate that. So now, I've got my perpendicular mark and my 2 parallel lines. So now when I cut this, it'll fit the corner of the diorama over there. So what I can do is, since I know this is flat, I can push this or pull this. Yeah, I'll probably push this. And I'm going to hold my fence. I'm going to do this with a loose fence here, and I'll show you. I'm just going to push this through and move my fence back and forth by hand if I need to. So I've got my line. I know where I'm going. See, it's going off a little bit, but I can put it back on course. And I'm not too worried about these back edges because we're going to cover the piece with texture and it's going to hide these seams. So in this case, I'm not super hyper worried about these absolutely laser perfect cuts on this because the texture is going to hide a lot of that. There we go. So again, more scraps, 1 flat edge. I'll throw these in a bin and save them so I can cut out bricks or patterns or whatever I want to use later for other dioramas. So we'll throw those over there for now. Okay, let's see if this looks good. Let's see if that was a good decision. I don't know. So I just thought, since I have this piece that I cut off of here, why not use it as a detail maybe over here? Nah. What if we do this? That looks kind of cool. How about that? Do that. We could put it over here. Move this back over there. Yeah. Kind of like that. So what we're going to do, as you saw in my inspiration drawing, is we are going to cut a little overhang. That's the next thing we're going to do. And I wanted a little piece to go here anyways. So I think I'm going to go put that right here. Thank you so much, Pablo. I appreciate it. So I think I'm going to put this right here. And I'm not going to pin it down. Well, maybe I'm not going to pin it down yet. But now I got to figure out where I want this cut opening. So the idea is to have it be an opening to where somebody could walk through it. So, excuse me. So we got to figure out, this is our figure. We want it to be about as wide as over here so that the figure can walk through the opening. Yeah, so I'm just going to use the figure as a guide to guesstimate where I need to make that cut. So now all the pins I put in it, I'm going to take back out. Okay. And again, I might change my mind again too later. Who knows? This is how I work. It's very fluid. I'd normally work a little slower than this, but I'm trying to cover everything I can in one stream here. Okay, so this is our bottom. And I'm going to line up this mark with a mark on my mat here. And then I'm going to get my big 18-inch ruler. This is on my 22.5 point on my mat. I'm going to line it up with my 22.5 point over there on my mat. Let me see if I can show you guys what I'm doing. And to make sure this is running along the line straight, this is why cutting mats are very helpful. And then line this up here and up there, up there. And then I'm going to take my Sharpie and just make a reference line for where I'm going to start cutting my vertical edge here. So if I bring this down like that, then at somewhere in here, I'm going to want my curve to come in. So there's a bunch of ways to do this. You could get a big circular object and do it, which is what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll use my salad for that. So there we go. I knew I needed a salad for something. So I am going to put this right about there. So I have about an inch here because the figure's 12 inches tall, maybe 13 inches, and my whole piece here is 14. So if I cut too low, he won't be able to walk through the door. So I want to go about a 1 inch, so it'll be about 13 inches so that he could actually walk through this. So I am going to just line this up roughly. I don't need it to be perfect because I'm going to do a hot wire cut here. And I'm going to do this. And then I am going to carry this linear edge over here like that from this point. And then we will just freehand my curve. Now looking at this, this looks too big to me. So I think I'm gonna move this line over, and the piece I had sitting here, I'll probably set somewhere else. I feel like it's gonna look more balanced that way. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna redraw this line. Honestly, I would just eyeball this if I was going off the cuff, but I wanna do my best practices here. So I'm gonna go over, and I think I just want this opening to be about let's say 5 inches is good. So this is about 7. So if I go over 2 inches, I'm just going to line up 2 more points like I did before on my cutting mat. And I'm going to drag a line like that. I'm going to get my salad. And we'll do the same thing. Like that. Who knew? Salad's good for you. Ha ha, ha ha, everybody laugh. All right, dumb joke. Okay, so now I just had another idea in doing this. See, this is what I mean. Go with the flow, fluid process. I'm gonna make 2 cuts. So I made this smaller. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut this whole piece out. Then I'm gonna cut this piece out. Then I'm going to shave this piece down a little bit and put it back. So we'll have a little step down into our doorway. How's that sound? All right, I think after that, I'm gonna probably go on to the next modeling step, which is the floral foam. So, let's see, do I have enough space? Sometimes you don't have enough space on your cutter to do everything you wanna do. You just have to wing it. So, yeah, I think we can do this. So, something to keep in mind when you're cutting, I'm gonna have, my line goes that way, it curves to the left. So I know if I have my cutter on the left side, if I come down and I move away from it, my foam will go away. But if I have it flipped the other way, like this, and I go to cut through it, when I push through, I need my foam to go to the left, but this is in the way, and then my blade will be stuck here, my hot wire blade will be stuck here, heating up the foam, messing up the foam. I'll have to unplug my hot wire foam cutter, get it out while it's cooled down, and then restart the cut. So planning where you move your foam through the cutter is important. All right, this is a perfect example of that. So I'm gonna pull the foam through and then rotate it out. I could start side in and then go through, but I'm just gonna pull. I find that I get straighter lines when I pull. So wish me luck, even though I don't believe in it. You're gonna need it. Han Solo. Okay. Here we go. Nobody breathe. So I'm doing my pop and lock artist thing here. I'm just moving my hips. I've got my hands and my shoulders kind of locked in place, and I'm just slowly moving my hips back. Again, it doesn't matter if the line is a little wibbly wobbly. You don't want it like dramatically wobbly, but a little wibbly wobbly is okay. And now I'm going to very slowly follow my curve. And then we're gonna very carefully do this lateral cut. Oh, got a little wibbly wobbly up there, that's okay. Not worried about it. Almost there. Almost there. And boom, there we go. So now I got to do this again on here, and you'll see how I create a step down using previous cuts. This is an excellent technique for creating added detail without having to remeasure and remeasure and remeasure, all right? So I'm going to go ahead and just do the pull through style again here. Pull through here, make the same basic cut. And the next step, we're going to use our fence to shave down the thickness of this 1-inch piece of foam so that we get the added details. So if you're not with me yet, you'll see exactly what I'm trying to say in just a moment here. So hang in there for me. The next step after this floral foam is going to be pretty nuts. And you'll see what I mean. It's going to make the diorama start to look really interesting and not just like a bunch of flat pieces of boring insulation foam. And there we go. So again, I can save this and now I have extra detail for another part of my piece. And now I've got a hook. Okay, so what I was trying to say before is we've got these two pieces, and what I want to do is offset them like that. So I have a little step down, but I don't want this sticking out the back. So how do I do that? And this is why God created hot wire foam cutters. Sweet step down action, exactly. Exactly. All right, I saw that comment. Okay, so now I've set this to cut. I'm going to visualize this one. I'm just going to kind of guesstimate how much I want my step down to come down is the dimension I've set between my wire and my fence here, okay? So now I'm just going to push this piece through on a flat edge and let the wire cut off my shaved piece here, the shaved dimension that I want off for my step down. See that? Try to keep it straight. It's easy to wibble wobble a tall piece in a foam cutter like this. But now, again, we're going to have two cut-off pieces, and I can use the other cut-off piece. We're not dealing with cows here. Other cut-off piece for foam detail on this diorama, on another part of it, or on another piece if I want to later. If I want to create like a set of pieces or a larger diorama, splitting the foam in half after I've cut a detail piece gives me two detail pieces. All right. So now, when I glue this to this, I have a perfectly fitting step-down detail. See that? The foam actually bent a little bit from the heat because I thinned it out, but that's okay. When I pin it in place and glue it, it'll be good to go. I'm actually going to do that right now, so this can hopefully dry enough to where we can work with it by the end of the stream. We're almost an hour in. You guys are awesome. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please hit the like button. I'm going to try to go for 3 hours if I don't fall over dead, and I'm trying to sculpt the whole piece tonight. If we can get to some gluing and some pre-painting like a black wash, we'll do, or not black wash, but a black base coat, we'll do that. If we don't, hopefully I can come back next Sunday and we'll finish it together. But I'm going to see how far I can get in the next 2 hours. We've already done a ton so far. So I did a lot of pre-planning in my head to make sure this worked. I did my inspiration drawing, so I knew kind of where I wanted to go, so I wasn't lost as we were doing it. So this is always a good process for your own dioramas. Think about them a lot before you make them. Draw some sketches, and so when you dive in, you're not wasting foam or wasting time. You know, you feel like you accomplished something, all right? So that's exactly what we're doing right now. So the greatest glue on the face of the earth for foam is styro glue, at least in my opinion. My shop fan kicked on again, so I apologize if that's loud, but I don't want to be cold. You can get this at hwff.com. This is not a promotion. They sent me this a long time ago when I bought this foam cutter, and I've been buying it ever since. I have like 25 tubes of this in a drawer because I use it all the time. It's amazing. So this stuff dries quick too, it cures quick, and it also allows you to move the piece around a little bit before it cures. So it's excellent. So all we're gonna do now is I'm just gonna bend this a little bit to make sure it's not super curved. And I'm gonna run glue along this edge and I'm gonna pin it to this piece. Hey, thank you so much for coming by. Check out the stream later after I post it, and let me know what you think. All right. You don't need a ton of this glue. I just do like a good solid bead on one side. That's all you need. And what I'll even do is I actually just use my finger and I smear the glue kind of flat, kind of like you would with wood glue if you were doing carpentry. A lot of the techniques I use with foam are inspired by carpentry. So there's that. Just wipe that off on a paper towel. We're good to go. So here, I'm going to go ahead and just align this with the cuts, push it together, get my sewing needle pins, and pin it in place. And so make sure it's nice and flat. Move my cutter, move the camera a little. All right, so pin this in place with some sewing needle pins. Another one over here. I'm going to do 2 at the bottom at different angles just to hold this because it was wanting to bend up. It's going to allow that to hold it in place. And then I'm going to go here, put one in the center. Just kind of trying to be strategic about helping it hold itself kind of in place here. And I'm not super worried about any holes that these pins would make because, again, we're going to cover this in texture. Push this down, put one right here. You should never use another foam glue again. Honestly, this is all I use for foam. I use it for other stuff too. It doesn't just work on foam. It's amazing. It's the best glue ever. Like, honestly, once you buy it, you will probably never buy any other glue unless it's like material specific. So I'm going to put some on the back side as well as you see me flipping this over just to make sure it doesn't pop and move around or bow as it's curing, which it shouldn't, but just as a precaution. I'm going to lift this piece up. Put a piece right here. Bam. So there is our detail wall right there. And what we're going to do is we're going to just look at this again really briefly, make sure we don't want to make any changes. I got to pin this piece down so that I can kind of judge it how I want. And I will take a look at the chat in a moment. Say hi to everybody who's still here. Thank you for coming by again for my first YouTube live stream. I really appreciate it. And if this goes well, we get enough people, enough likes, I will try to do this as often as I possibly can with meaningful things. So I figure if you're gonna come by and you're gonna watch me do stuff, I want to make it worth your time. I don't like watching videos that aren't worth my time. So there we go. There is our detail. Let me pick the camera up. See that? That's our basic piece right there. Good. Yep. Jeff, it's the best glue ever. You are one of the people that I know you get into that glue and you can't stop using it. So this is the other detail piece that I had. I was thinking of using it here, but that doesn't make sense now that I've thought about it for somebody walking through the door. So what I might do is just leave it off. We might go simple here. Maybe I'll put a broken piece of something down here or over here to add some more interest to the piece. But that is going to be for our next step. So what we're going to do, though, is I need to determine exactly where I want this piece to be. I'm going to go ahead and go all the way over because some of the detail I want to put is going to be in here, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace the shape of this object onto my back object so I know where I want to leave things, or not cut out unnecessary detail or whatever. So it's just a reference. So I'm going to trace this. I'm also going to trace, while I'm here, trace my pieces onto the base so that if I decide to do anything on the base, I don't put it in the way of my sidewall pieces. So just so you know, if you don't know me, I will always keep my streams and videos family friendly. I don't make dirty jokes. I don't swear. I don't do any of that stuff. So you can, if you're watching with your kids or your family, you know I'm never going to do anything like that. The worst I'm going to do is put up an action figure, you know, that if you don't like a certain show or something, just know that. But I don't do anything gory. I don't do anything horror. I don't do anything violent. So you can be assured that my streams are going to be family friendly. So that is my reference trace that I did, and I'm going to pull these needles holding the base in out. I don't need them right now. And now I know where these pieces are going to be on my base, and now I know where that is going to be on my wall. All right, so we can now start doing some secondary detail on this wall. I won't need the hot wire foam cutter again anytime soon, so I'm going to move that aside. Now we're going to experiment with the lovely floral foam. This stuff, dry foam. Oops, not this stuff. That's the wrong thing. This stuff, this dry foam, is really, really fun to use. Let me take a drink really quick. And it's actually way more versatile than it looks. It's very easy to cut. It is very crumbly, and it does make a little bit of a static mess, and you'll see what I mean. But I got this piece. I had this one here at the shop, and I haven't used it. It's got some damage to it, but if you're going to make a damaged piece, you can use that to your advantage. I'm actually going to use the clean side because I'm trying to emulate a sandstone block look. Oh, thanks, Fishnet. I appreciate that. I'm glad your nephew likes my videos. So I'm gonna cut off this plastic here and reveal the whole block. And I already have a dimension here that I might be able to utilize. And so let me do this so you can see it. So this block is 2 inches. This is 2 inches thick. And the whole piece is, I think, 12 by 12. 12, yeah, it's 12 by 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut out part of this and part of this up here, and we're going to do blocks, sandstone blocks. Now, you could carve into the foam sandstone blocks, but it's going to have a different effect if I do it with separate material. It's going to look a little bit more striking when it's done, and I'm going to be able to add more specific detail. So I could, you know, just do like a thing here and do like a thing here, and I could carve brick into this, but this and this will be on the same plane. And so I want them not to look like they're that close to the same plane. I want them to look a little bit farther apart. So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to add texture on these pieces to make it look a lot more interesting, and show you a second technique. So basically, we're going to cut bricks to fit in here. And now that I'm looking at this, I might as well just, I guess, cut over like that. Nah, we got the detail piece here. I don't know. We'll see. So maybe we'll just do like this. So I'm just sketching on this piece kind of where I want my bricks to be visible, my sandstone block bricks. Yeah, something like this. Yeah. And then maybe like this. And then like that. I don't know, something like that. Might be a little bit too revealing. Maybe we'll swoop this in like this. Something like that. Yeah. So now what I need to do is I need to create a sandstone block section that is these overall dimensions. And then I'm going to cut out this foam with my hot wire cutter, put it on top of the section I make, and cut out the section and glue that section in here. Confused yet? You will be. All right. So here we go. Let me measure this width here. This is 6 inches by 5 inches. So I need to decide on a brick height or stone, sorry, not a brick height, but a block height. I think, I don't know, 1.5 inches is probably good. What do you think? I think 1.5 inches is going to look good. I don't want them to be too small because I want them to look like brick. I don't want to be too big because I want them to look like they could be moved by humans. So I think 1.5 inches, that's where my 1.5 inches would be. So if I did 1.5 inches, I'm just doing this as a reference, that's about how big the bricks would be. And then we'd have our vertical lines dividing the bricks like that. Yeah, I think that'll look good. Who's in the chat? The difference in price is not extreme. No, it's not. Just looking at everybody's comments. Thank you guys for commenting and being here. I really appreciate it. Toy Malarkey, you asked about a hot glue gun. I hate hot glue guns. I mean, I don't really hate them, but I barely use hot glue. Hot glue isn't really glue. It's more of like hot plastic. And so it doesn't really bond things as well as I would like them to. Oftentimes, I'll actually use 2 dabs of hot glue to hold 2 pieces together while the real glue that I put on it cures. I use hot glue for things that need to be flexible or things that don't need a lot of bonding. My miniature plants video that is coming out February 1st is the date I have that dropping on YouTube. I go over hot glue and how I use it in that video a little bit. So check that video out for more information on what I do with hot glue. But I rarely use hot glue. I kind of consider it a proprietary glue, only needed for very specific things. I like using glues like this much more. They just work much better, and the quality of bonding that you get lasts a long time. Hot glue has a tendency not to last. That's just been my experience, but there are industrial hot glues that you can use, but that stuff is just, you put it on the foam and it's going to melt right through like acid on metal. It just doesn't work. So what did I say that was? 5 by 6. All right, we're going to cut ourselves maybe a 6 by 6 block, just so I have enough out of this. And I'm actually going to cut out each brick too as I do this. So let's see. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm professional. 6 by 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I love cutting mats. They save me marking and measuring. They're amazing. I love them very much. Thank you for cutting mats. Okay, so we're just going to slice through this with a long knife here. Again, I'm not going to worry too much about being perfect because these are going to be trimmed down later anyway. So this stuff cuts like butter. It's meant to be sliced easily. Boom. There we go. And then we are going to cut another piece that is roughly 6 inches. Maybe I'll use this time. And actually my cut looks like it's right there where that nick is. So I will just use that little nick and make my cut. Oops. Okay. Cutting this foam tickles my ears a little bit. Just the specific sound that it makes. It's like a weird little sound in your ears. Anyways, side point. So now I can cut out my block height, which I said was 1.5 inches. I'm going to cut out my 1.5 inch blocks and use my shorter ruler here. Line it up visually with my marks on my mat. Cut out 1.5. Do another one. It's not lined up perfectly, but I'm not worried about that. It's meant to look imperfect. Okay. I just discovered something. Another 1.5. Do. Okay, so my cuts are a little bit of an angle. At a little bit of an angle. How do I say that? Yeah, is that right? But that's okay because of the way that these are going to intersect. It's not going to matter in the end. So now I'm going to actually cut these in half so that I have my 1 inch width or my rough 1 inch width. I'm not worried about them being perfect because I want them to have a little bit of back and forth and how perfectly they don't line up, which will make them look more real or more interesting. You know, sometimes you want that super sharp, clean look, you know, like an ancient Egyptian building that's brand new, but I'm not going for that this time. So I'm going to cut these in half the other way. Just going to line them up again. And line my ruler up at that 1 inch mark. And slice these in half. Okay, now I have, boom. Well, I'm going to flip this that way. I want this side showing. This is the factory finish side. And the factory finish side is, it's got these lines in it and that banding. You could just sand that off really quick, but just for the sake of speed, I'm going to flip this over. So there's 2 layers. And we're going to cut this one in half. Good old dry foam. Alrighty. Jason and Eli, I appreciate your super chats, by the way. Forgot if I said that earlier, but I really, really appreciate that. And there we go. So now we've got a little bit of a brick wall going here. And now I want to cut these. I want to figure out my width. Let me just reference my sketch really quick. That was about 3 inches. So just so you guys know, cinder block is usually twice as wide as it is tall. And so that is essentially the same proportions. If I go 1.5, the width is going to be 3. So I'm going to cut these at 3 inches to make my individual blocks. Again, you could carve this into that foam and get a different look. I'm going for a totally new look that you guys probably haven't really seen me do unless you go way back in my Instagram. I haven't used floral foam for much in several years because I've gotten so hooked on using the XPS insulation foam. But just for the sake of demonstration and something fresh for all of you who came here tonight, we're doing the dry foam technique. I like this look. I think it's really, really cool. So I'm 24 inches. I'm going to go over to 21 inches, lining it up on my cutting mat, doing a chop. And I grab this last piece because I've noticed sometimes when I pull through and it's thin, it'll bend open and the cut will have that cut right there will have a curve in it. So that's why I just did that. So do another 3-inch cut here. So 1, 2, 3. Line up my marks. And do this cut. Like that. So now I have these little mini blocks that I can that I can use later. I maybe I'll use these as like details, little blocks that fell on top of themselves or broken pieces or something on the base of the diorama. I don't know. I'll set those aside for now. And I've got these pre-cut to 1.5 inches this way if I need to use them, or this way. And now I've got a set of blocks. I can start to assemble this wall. And let's see if that's enough. Let's just stack these on top like Legos and see if that's going to cover that whole dimension. So if I go there, 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 there. One there, and a piece there. Yep, that'll cover it. So now I got to glue these together. So you can use floral foam for this, or floral foam. You can use styro goo for this as well. I'm going to probably use it to do the intersecting flat edges of these. And I'm going to do this while lining it up on the mat so that I get some consistency here. And I'm not, the reason I'm going to line it up on the mat is because I don't want them to be off to where they're not lined up. I mean, if that's the look you want, where you want all the lines to be off kilter and make it look a little bit more ancient, you can do that. I'm going for a little bit of a more aligned masonry look here. But yeah, let me just start gluing. Shut up and start gluing. We are 1 hour and 16 minutes in. We are approaching the halfway point here. We're doing good. This is actually farther along than I thought I would be right now. So we might be able to sculpt this entire diorama tonight and then come back and do the paint job. So on this floral foam, it's very porous, meaning it soaks up a lot of whatever you put on it. So I'm going to actually put quite a bit of glue on each piece. We do this piece. And push those together flat like that. And all right, let me get my power cord. My battery's getting a little weak because I'm live streaming on YouTube. So hold on 1 sec for me, guys. I'm going to unplug my fan over here. Plug the camera in. There we go. Okay. We're in business. Hopefully the battery does not die on me. Then I'll know how long I can do streams for. So I just remembered here, one step I wanted to do before I glued these together that I just recalled is I wanted to sand off the edges. So I'm going to do that really quick before I continue. I've just got this little square of 120 grit sandpaper, and all I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to do this. See this round off edge? I'm going to do that, and I'm not going to worry about how consistent it is. I'm just going to do this a little bit on all of the forward-facing edges of the brick. Just to denote some more detail. The sound quality probably just improved because I turned the fan off. Okay. So I'm going to pull these back apart really quick. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. All right. Da 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 da. Oh boy, this is what I do when I'm alone in my shop: is make up stuff like that. Okay. Now, whoops, sorry about that. I'm gonna switch from this glue to, no, I'm not. Never mind. I'm not going to switch. I'm going to stick with it. I was thinking of switching to the Mod Podge, but I'm going to do that. So this all gets covered with Mod Podge at the end, which coats this in a shell so that it's not so flimsy. And that also kind of gives it its final texture. So I'm going to stack these up like that. There we go. That's why we rounded over the edges. So we get this sort of seam thing going on here. And I'm just going to do that. Put this piece on, because that's going to go right there. I don't need it to be fully out there. And then I'm going to put the other side that I broke off over here. This piece, we'll call this piece Tom broke off, because he got broken off. And we'll put him there. Actually, I forgot to put glue on this side. One thing to be cautious about, by the way, with this glue, it's very viscous and thick. Once you start squeezing the glue out, it might go and come all the way out, and you might come back to your shop in the morning and find a giant puddle of glue. I know Psychic Studios, who is in the chat right now, has experienced that. I went on vacation over the week one time and came back, and this half my glue bottle had come out because I didn't tip it up and let this air bubble, you see this air bubble moving around, go up, and it created a vacuum, and it self-sucked all the glue out of the top and down. It's because it's so thick. So just something to be aware of if you use this glue. Jason, I did not see what you said. What did you say? You said, what is your go-to adhesive for foam? It is this, Jason, Styro Goo. Styro Goo is the best thing for foam, but as you see, it works on other things. It works on industrial, hello, where is it? There it is. Fabric, plastic, metal, cardboard, rubber, paper, glass. It works on everything. It's amazing. This glue is fantastic. It's just a clear viscous glue. I think you can get this branded differently at Hobby Lobby, but it's in a much smaller bottle, and I think it costs about 20% more. But if you order it from their website, I order it in like big old quantities. I order like 10 of these at a time. I just get it from them because these people were nice enough to send me a couple of free bottles, and it's actually cheaper if you buy it in bulk from them, which I go through this stuff pretty quick. So, all right. Glue this section. Do, 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 do. Oops, getting some glue. I don't want the glue coming forward. No, we can't see that glue. Okay, so see that hole there? I'm going to leave it. It's going to add detail. And same thing here. So this is what I was kind of saying before about inconsistent cuts are not really a big deal on a diorama like this. They'll actually add interest. Shop fan kicked on again. So see that? See how we have some unevenness going on in these holes? Leave it alone, because it'll actually add detail to your piece when it's done. It'll look pretty cool. And all these flat edges, these little sort of cut edges here, I'm going to leave them alone because I'm going to add a little bit more detail at the end, but I might sand some of this down and make it a little bit flatter. So you could do that beforehand, but I'm just going to not for this demonstration because I'm just doing a slightly different style. But I'm just going to keep laying it down and patting it down like that. And I'm just going to check how tall we've got here according to our piece. So I need one more piece up here. That's pretty much it. That'll fill in this section. Okay, let's do the one more piece up here. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a couple of ways. This is very flimsy because the glue is not together yet, but it does cure quick. You'll see in about, if you stick around to the end of the stream, you'll see how stiff this stuff gets. Let's see. What was that, Mr. Chat? Oh, I didn't realize I could just scroll my finger and see the chat. There it is. Styro Goo. Yeah, Psychics, he knows what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah. If you get a bunch of super glue in one place, it creates is it an exothermic or an endothermic reaction? And it heats up like crazy. And if you put, I found out myself, if you put fresh super glue on super glue that's half dry, it accelerates that heating process. I've had that where it's chemical burning and chemical smoke, and I've actually had to do that to my fingers, which is not fun, but don't tell my wife. It's a good thing she's not in the chat. Anyways, one way you can hold this stuff together, you could put a piece of tape on the back if you wanted to. Even that looks kind of cool. I'm going to show you one reason that this foam is super awesome to work with is I can basically skewer this foam because it's designed for flower stems. Let me grab a skewer. I've got a box over here full of wood skewers. Or, well, not just skewers, but all kinds of different wood parts. These are just little skewers from Walmart. And I can just kind of judge the depth here. I'm just going to go like 3 high. Yeah. And I should be able to just push this through. Yep. Boom. And another one here. I'm not going to push through this dimension because if I push through, it might want to collapse that. I'm going to push through maybe up to here. Like that. If I can do it. Find out. There we go. Now my piece is nice and stable. Check it out. And I can mess with it while the glue's drying. I mean, these little pieces I got to be careful with, but I'm not super worried about that. And now I can move this around and position it. I don't have to worry about it falling apart. So now I'm going to cut out of the pink foam with my hot wire cutter that shape, and then I'm going to lay it over this and trim off that and glue it back into its place. Make sense? Let's do it. Move this foam. Do. Thank you guys again for being here. I appreciate all the likes. I appreciate all the comments. You guys keep the chat going. I appreciate it. If I had YouTube 5 years ago, are you saying that I'm behind? Is that what you're saying? That I'm 5 years too late? You know, I figured I better start getting this stuff out. This is stuff that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I just didn't really have the time or capability. And there's a lot of other artists who have been doing an amazing job on Instagram, and some have just started YouTube channels, and they took right off because they were catering to the action figure community, you know. And my channel is really a window into my mind and the way that my process and the way that I think from a whole creative perspective. It's not just dedicated to one art or one or two arts or just action figure arts. It's dedicated to how to apply these techniques to kind of anything. And so my goal with my channel is not to be completely tied to only one type of thing, like just action figure dioramas or even just miniatures, but really to try to show people how to take the things I've learned in the same way I learned them and apply them to whatever they're doing. And so that's really kind of where I'm at with my channel. And I find that when I deviate from that too much, I'm not as successful as I want to be. So you'll see me continue on with all the insanity. Oops, I forgot to plug it back in. I don't know where you could get it in Canada other than hwff.com and see if they'll ship to Canada. You know, it's hotwirefoamfactory.com, and it's all in hwff.com, and you can see if they ship to Canada. But like I said, it is just a really dense, clear glue. If you have a Hobby Lobby type store up there in Canada that sells materials, you could probably find a glue that is chemically similar. So just look for a clear, really dense glue that says it works on foam, and you'll probably be just fine. Okay, so I just kind of randomly cut this out according to my drawing. And look at that. We've got some detail for another diorama down the road. Throw that in your bin. Spare parts. Before we do that, I'm going to line this up here on my base. And I'm going to make sure that they're level with each other and trace this up. Oh, I see. I'm just joking with you, Star Marvel. I just like to pick on myself, try to keep myself humble. All right, so now I could trace this with a pen, but I don't think that's really necessary. I'm just gonna cut off chunks as I need to. Oops, don't cut my finger. There we go. Okay. So this floral foam, just so you know, it does not cut on a hot wire cutter. See, that doesn't do anything. It's not heat sensitive. It's dry foam, so it doesn't work that way. So you do have to do this all with a knife. Oh, I can't call my wife right now. I meant to tell her to put in the chicken into the oven. Oh, I made smoked paprika chicken. Hopefully she did that for me. I was hoping to come home to that after I did my stressed out stream here. But okay, we're getting close. So now I'm gonna just hold these two pieces together and try not to mess up. There we go. And Star Marvel, you're generous to say proper techniques. I think that's what you said, right? Proper techniques. Yeah, these are all invented and discovered techniques. I don't even want to say invented because I'm probably just discovering techniques my own that other people discovered way before me. So I wouldn't say proper techniques, more just like, here's something I learned. Maybe you could do it this way too. Because I don't know if I'm the authority on any of this. I've just discovered a lot of stuff that I think other people knew how to do too. And found a way to apply it to things that I've always wanted to do, like miniature dioramas for action figures. Get off the knife. So see, this stuff is very staticky. Again, if you're under 18 and you're watching this stream, parental supervision for the knife. Okay, kids? A lot of cutting. Oops. Pieces coming unglued. That's okay. Okay, I think we've got our basic shape, and that's sticking out a little bit. So look at all that. That is all basically shrapnel that we can add detail to the base of the diorama later. So I need to get my little nipper pliers here and cut this twig off. That's probably fine. And this should fit right into the section we cut out. Look at that. Boom. Pretty close. It's a little off, but the cool thing about this foam is you can crush it. Crush it into place. Look at that. Boom. And so I'm actually going to cut, now I'm going to cut this dimension out of this side piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back out after I just got it into a beautiful position. And I'm going to go ahead and glue it in right now. I'm going to think for a sec. Is that what I want to do? Yeah, that's what I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and put my styro goo in here. Good old styro goo down at the old hot wire foam factory. And just spread some of this glue around. Clean my finger off. And mush it back in there. Mush. Mush. Okay. Mush. It has been mushed. Whoops. Now, whoops. Keep hitting my camera. Sorry. Now I'm going to trim off this, and I'm going to make sure I get a nice straight down trim, just so that it stays part of the shape. And right here. Another reason I decided to work with floral foam is I don't really see a lot of people doing that, and I don't think people realize you can work with it. So I wanted to try to, do something that everybody wants, which is the action figure diorama stuff that we all do, but kind of do something that maybe you haven't seen before. So it's another reason I decided to stick with the floral foam is because, I figured it'd be something interesting and fresh. So there you go. It's starting to look like an interesting diorama, isn't it? So now we got to just make another executive decision. You know what? I'm going to pin this in place on the bottom just so I don't kick it out. Well, maybe I'll do some more twigs. Let me do some twigs. Twiggy. All right. See if I can stab this into the foam. The pink foam. Here we go. get some pliers to push that in. There we go. Okay. And let's do another one over here. I'm mostly just breaking these off to get a slightly sharp edge here. Now I'm going to go over here. Well, that's too long. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Okay. Now I can see I can push this in and out. I'm just going to leave it right there because I want that in and out and that inconsistency. Because up here we're going to spread spackling paste and then sand it down later. And I want it to kind of overlap these edges just a little bit. But we're going to Mod Podge this first. So before I move on to the next section, I'm actually going to go ahead and Mod Podge this because maybe if I do it now, I'll be able to do a little bit of painting. Executive decision, yes. I'll be honest, I kind of stole the concept from Bob Ross because he always used to say big decision time. And I realized I didn't mean to, but I picked it up from him, I think, because when he would go to put in a big old tree in one of his paintings, excuse me, when he would put a big old tree in like the foreground of his painting, he'd go, okay, big decision time, be brave. And he'd go big old swish of brown or black paint to define that tree. And so I don't want to copy anybody, but I kind of subconsciously started saying executive decision time. And I think I picked it up from him when I was a kid. So I don't want to I'll take half credit for that, maybe 30% credit for that. Bob Ross is the man, guys. He is the man. I thank you guys for your support again too. I realize 3 or 4 of you in the chat have been following me for years and years, and the folks that are here that are new, I really appreciate you coming by. I promise to make it worth your time. If you become a channel member, or if you just stick around and hit the like button, or you leave comments, that is an incredible amount of support, and I appreciate it. It'll help tell YouTube that people actually like what I'm doing, so that maybe I can make a $1 or $2 off of an ad. And that'll incentivize me to be able to keep doing this for all of you, because it's kind of a symbiotic relationship, right? So I'm just going to get my brush here and some Mod Podge. And it kind of doesn't really matter which brush or what kind of brush you use. I just kind of want to get it on the bristles. And we're going to brush it onto this floral foam. Well, that wasn't enough. All right, there we go. And I'm going to spread this pretty evenly across the floral foam. And the goal is to have a pretty even coat. And it doesn't matter if it overlaps under the pink foam, because we're going to cover that with texture. So you don't have to worry about being super flawless around the edges. But the goal here is just to, I'm going to glob it on a little bit thicker now, just to get this green foam coated so that it will be more rigid. It will be stronger. It will take paint a little bit better, because if we try to paint this as it is, it's going to soak up like 5 layers of paint before it starts looking the color that we paint it. Adam Savage says mission critical. I don't even remember him saying that. Was that a Mythbusters phrase? I watch a lot of Adam's videos, but maybe I just haven't paid attention to him saying that. I was telling my wife earlier today that sometimes listening to Adam freaks me out, because Adam is a very successful maker who worked in the film industry doing miniature model making and practical and special effects. And that's what I wanted to do when I was younger, but I had to move away from that. And for personal reasons, for goals, for other things that were just more important in life. But now this is kind of my way of getting back to it and pursuing it as a career without being in the industry. I'm getting these jobs for some of these amazing toy photographers and a couple of companies, and I am so thankful for that. But I'm very happy doing what I'm doing the way that I'm doing it. As long as I can keep doing it, I'm going to try to do that. YouTube is going to be one of those avenues. If I can keep producing content and people keep coming by and watching it, liking and subscribing, sticking around for the more in-depth content, that's the stuff that's going to allow me to keep doing this and kind of live a little bit of the dream with that, what I originally wanted to do as a kid. And if you don't know the reasons why I was so inspired to do that, I would actually direct you, after you're done with this stream, go watch the Bat Force. They're a channel, the Bat Force Radio. Their current stream their current video was an interview with me that we did a couple days ago. Or actually, we did it on Tuesday. And I talk a lot about sort of my origin story, or where probably the most I ever have actually publicly about my origin story with them, like where I got my original inspiration and kind of where my creative journey took me, and things that got me interested in miniatures and dioramas. So it's worth a listen. And I actually do multiple demonstrations in that video. I think I do like 3. Talk a lot about materials and glue and well, I guess not so much glue, but materials. I'm gluing right now, so I'm thinking about glue. But materials and techniques and basic things you need to get started. You know, those guys really wanted to know a lot of that because they wanted to make some cool action figure dies. So anyways, give that a watch when you're done with this stream, or a listen. It's also on iTunes and Spotify, but there's a lot of visuals. They pull up a lot of photographs of my work. And I go over and explain a lot about how I did certain things. Yeah, so it's worth listening to. There it is. There is your Mod Podge covered sandstone. You see that completely changes the look. We went from, I just put this back in my dirty paint water until I'm ready to use it again. So it went from that to that. And when this cures, it's going to have this nice even texture where it's not going to be overly porous. And so see how I left those cut off edges in there? It makes it look like it's hewn or broken off stone. So there's a whole reason for these techniques, all right? Now we're going to do the same thing, but on the top side and maybe a little bit of a smaller space, okay? So everything, if you just came in or you came in not too in the middle of this process, you're about to see it again. And if you need it as a demo for a second time, you're going to see it again. I'm going to move a lot quicker this time, though. You watched it, Jason? Yeah, it was really cool talking to those guys. They interviewed Eric Studdard, who is a toy photographer who has my alley and my clock tower, and he was one of the first guys to buy one of my dumpsters from me. So his entry-level point with me was a dumpster, then he commissioned the alley, then he commissioned the clock tower. And Eric's stuff is getting better and better, and he's getting around to utilizing all of the different pieces of the stuff that I've sent him, which I was really looking forward to him doing. And he just posted, I think it was today. Is it today or yesterday? I think it was today. 2 incredible photos with my clock tower that just, oh man, so exciting to see. So here are the processes again in case you need to see it. And okay, now executive decision time. Now I need to decide how much of this I want to cut out. I think I kind of like this big chunk out of here, but it's going to require a lot more prep. But I'm going to move a lot faster, okay, since I was explaining so much this time. So just stick with me here. If you came in after I started the last one, I will post this stream later, so you'll be able to watch the whole thing in its entirety. So let's see, maybe like this. Yeah, there we go. And let's see. Yeah, I think that looks nice. Yeah, so all of this is going to be green foam. Okay. This is tricky because we're going to separate 2 pieces and they're not going to have a single connection, but it's going to look cool when we're done. That was really loud, sorry. I clap a lot when I get excited, even when I'm alone. I just start clapping. Okay. Executive decision time. So yes, I'm plugged in. There's a hot wire cutter. We got the jumper on and we're ready to go. Chicken nuggets. Oh, something I forgot to mention about this glue. It is cuttable with a hot wire. You can actually cut the glue with the hot wire foam cutter. Amazing. So I'm just going to go ahead and carry this line over here. Boom. And whoops, that's what happened. I had one of these come off. No biggie. We'll just stick that over there. Okay. So yeah, that glue can be cut with a hot wire foam cutter, even when it's cured. Because it is heat sensitive, hot heat sensitive. So you can run the hot wire cutter right next to the glue and it will slice through it. You might have to let it sit there for one quick sec, but it'll slice it right off. Boom. Okay, so this is the piece we need to emulate with green foam. So I need to get an overall dimension off of this and do a layout the same way I did before. So this is 7 by 7. Cool. 7 by 7. I'm going to show you another technique for doing layout really quick. This is how I do things to speed things up when I'm working. Where's my tape? There it is. All right. So I don't have to constantly eyeball things. If I have a known dimension that I'm going to be repeating, I will put some tape down on my mat as a layout. So I'm just going to put it on the 15-inch mark here. And right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let me just make sure I did that correctly. Nope. 7 right there. Boom. And now to take this, slice that off, and I can go, oops, along here, create a reference for myself right here. 15 plus 7 is 22. So there's my other 7-inch mark. And I can do this. These are all my little habits that I've formed through my own processes, which is, I had a hard time doing videos when I first started because some of these things are so subconscious to me now. I don't think about how I need to explain them to other people. But here it is. So this is a 7 by 7 square. So now I don't have to worry about dimensioning everything out and keeping it labeled. I can just keep it within this yellow box that I just created and peel the tape off later. Okay, where are those other cutoffs? There they are. This one, here's this one. Jeff says he does the same. Cool, man. Yeah, I think a lot of people eventually get to points like this where they just kind of figure stuff out like this and just start doing it. Find little shortcuts. You know, if I wasn't talking to you guys, I'd probably be done with all this, but I'm trying to go step by step for you so you can see it all. But it's amazing how long, though, once you go big and you need to add hyper real detail to stuff, even though you're moving fast. Whoops, didn't cut that one right. Derp. Even though you're moving fast, actually, that's fine. I can still use that. Even though you're moving fast, when you just need to keep going back in and adding more and more detail, it takes forever. It just takes a long time. I actually watched a video with Adam Savage, and you guys may have seen this too, where he talked about him and his crew made the miniature model NASA space shuttle for the movie Space Cowboys back in the late 90s, I think. And it's a miniature model, and he talks about how just the the one little 12-inch wide piece that's used for a wide shot in the film took their team 7 months to make. A 12-inch diorama, basically, took a team of guys 7 months to make. That's because they were paying attention to all the little details, making sure every little edge was perfect, because it was for film and it was going to fill up a whole movie screen. So, I mean, that's exactly the perfect example of why doing stuff well takes a long time. You know, you can do quick stuff, that turns out really, really good, like what we're doing right now, like doing large stone type things. There's a lot of fast techniques you can use, but when you get into the fine detail of things, you really have to keep going over things and finding techniques and discovering things and spending a lot of time thinking about things. And that just sucks a lot of time away from actually doing the modeling or just getting in there. But it's worth it in the end because the models really have a lot to show for it. So let me get my reference piece here, because I don't have to put a bunch of brick down here. I don't have to put a bunch of brick up here. So let me just do a little mark on here where I don't need stuff so that I don't waste foam. So I'm going to curve it over to here. I'm going to do here and curve it over to here. Right there, right there, right there, right there. Okay, so I don't need this part. I don't need that part. Save me some time. It's all about trying to find things to save time. Jason knows all about how long things take. He just got a diorama that he commissioned from me over a year and 4 months ago. I looked back and I was talking to him right before I started my YouTube channel about it, which was a year and 4 months ago. And I just shipped it to him and he got it on Friday, I think. So he has that now. And, you know, I was working it in amongst other commissions I had going and I still have going. But that's, you know, sometimes to do something right, I don't like to send out bad work whenever I make anything for anybody, even if it's a cheaper or a smaller piece, you know, value wise. I hate sending something out knowing I could have done better. I hate that feeling. So sorry, I'm very strong. I have a strong opinion about that. But I absolutely hate the way that feels, knowing that I could have given someone something way better and I didn't. And it just feels like I'm cutting myself short. I'm cutting them short. I hate that. So I rather just ask my commissioner to be patient with me, knowing that when I'm done, they're going to be, well, likely to be thrilled with it. Because that's what happened with Eric twice. You know, both of his dioramas took me forever. The Bat Cave took me forever. But when I gave them to the people, they were like, I don't care anymore. You know, that's the effect I want to have with the work that I do. And so I could do quick videos. I could bust out quick, cheap dioramas all the time and get views really fast, but that's not who I am. That's not who I want to be. I want to provide really, really quality, I guess it's entertainment, but really, really quality, informative entertainment about how to do these arts, because that's what I enjoy. And so I can only convey myself that way. And so I convey that through the work that I do for people, how I present myself in videos like this. That's what I like to do. So thank you for being here for that. I appreciate it. I'm just trying to lay these out, and I realized in my layout, I had one solid, got some Mod Podge running. I got one solid piece all the way over here. So for consistency's sake, if I had these bricks lined up over to this left side, this brick would look off with the brick above it or brick below it. So I'm going to start even though I'm going to leave this area empty, I'm going to start my brick layout right here so that it's consistent with how a mason would have laid it all the way up. Little things you got to think about when you want things to look real. If I didn't line those up, there might be something subconsciously that you would notice and going, that doesn't look right to the eye. But thinking about how things line up and how they would normally be built in layers and planning for those layers, that's going to make your piece look that much better. Okay, so back to the styro goo. Styro goo. So I don't need to glue this piece there. That's just a placeholder. So I'm going to glue this piece to this piece. Yeah. And I'm going to glue this piece to this. Oops, I forgot to do. You guys didn't remind me. I got to sand the edges. See what I do when I get in a rush? All right. I have to sand the edges. The wonderful edges of Oz. Okay. Okay. There we go. Okay, let me line this all back up carefully. Is that what I want? Yeah, okay. And it looks like I'm going to need a little bit of brick up here, so I'll fill that in a minute. Yeah, it's worth the wait on stuff to get stuff done right for people. And if you take the time to do things right, you'll get faster at doing the stuff that takes a long time. And that's happening to me. Like these big dioramas that I'm doing for people, I'm getting much faster at every time I do one. You know, I think the alley, when I first did it, it took me over a year. I think it took me like a year. The big alley that you guys have seen me do, it took me like a year and 2 months, I think. Then the Bat Cave took me like 11 months. Then the Clock Tower took me about 7 months. Then that big diorama I did for Plastic Action, so he could do his action figure photo shoot. I actually dropped everything I was doing because it was a rush commission. And I spent 80 hours doing that in 2 weeks. And so I'm getting faster. So hopefully, well, as time goes on, I'll be able to pump out more content for you guys. I know I'll be able to do that. Let me see here. There we go. So I'm just gonna, okay, I guess I'm gonna do that. I didn't break off how I wanted it to, so we'll just do this. There we go. Sand the edges. A lot of this lining stuff up, this comes naturally after you do this for a while. I know Jeff said that he does this in the chat. A lot of this stuff, I think, for me, is naturally informed by the drafting that I did, but maybe not. I mean, if other people do it that aren't drafts person, maybe it's just intrinsic to having to do layout for large pieces. Your brain starts to think very geometrically and planning, and maybe it's just natural for most people. You know, I used to think that that was the case, but I realize I might be wrong about that. There's that guy. So it's kind of like, I guess I'm solving a little bit of a puzzle right now. I'm actually having a lot of fun doing this. Yeah, cool. All right. Let me see. Is that where that's going to go? Yep. Cool, man. Okay. This is working out well. Sand this off. Glue this piece. Okay. Oh, got some glue bleeding out onto the board, but that's okay. I can just clean that off afterwards. Okay. Just a couple more pieces and we'll be good to go. Looks like I can cut this one in half and use it. Use this piece. Yeah, there we go. Use this piece right here. All right, and see, look at the bunch of the different depths we're getting here. I'm gonna sand this down a little bit more even at the end, but I want that because I want things to look like, you know, they were laid out roughly and then finished over later. Like we've got layers of civilization going on. A lot of this how I'm layering this is inspired from JEDHA City from the movie Rogue One, but I'm also thinking a lot about my trip to Egypt when I make this, and I'm thinking about how things looked, mostly just for inspirational purposes. I'm not trying to specifically emulate anything in Egypt, but just trying to kind of imitate that vibe. I might have to cut some more big pieces here. I can glue this piece down here. That was an amazing trip that we took. Me and my wife went to Egypt for 2 weeks. And if you scroll way back through my Instagram, you'll see some of the photos I took. I didn't post a ton of them because rightfully so, she wanted me to enjoy the trip and not post about it. So I've got some funny pictures. I took my Kylo Ren action figure with me and my Kamala Khan Miss Marvel action figure with me to Egypt. I thought that Kylo Ren would look really cool in that environment. And Kamala Khan is from the Middle East in the comics. So I just took those figures and I took a bunch of funny pictures with them. So if you scroll back down like 6 years on my Instagram, you'll see all those posts. And yeah, it was a fun trip. The pyramids are amazing, by the way. They're amazing. They're incredible and they're absolutely worth it to just go see all that history. Shave a little bit off of this. Yep. And yeah, they're absolutely incredible to look at. If you know, like even just some basic history too, it's just very awe-inspiring to see the reality of things that you read about in a textbook, you know, when you were younger. It's really, really kind of floors you and gives you that like, wow, this stuff isn't just in a book. It's a real thing. It was really built. It's that cool. All right, I need one more block, so I'm going to cut myself a piece of the pie, and I'm just gonna rough it like this. Like that. There we go. Give myself a mark line. And I cut like that. Boom. There we go. Just gonna shave this, and this. Yeah. That'll do. All right. Hey, Star Marvel, Eli, thank you for coming by. I really appreciate your support, bro. We'll see you later. Yeah, take a nap. I think you're over towards the East Coast there, right? Central Time or East Coast? I don't remember. Forgot where you were. I know I have it written down somewhere because I just shipped you something. But yeah, have a good night. Have a good week, my brother. We'll see you hopefully in the next stream, and I'll continue doing more live streams on Instagram as well. But I got to get the YouTube going for all the wonderful 2,800 subscribers I have now. So I got to make content for these guys. Let them know I appreciate them here, and keep taking care of my lovely Instagram audience who really got me going. So if you came over here from my Instagram, I appreciate it. That really blew up over the last few months thanks to the accelerated algorithmic shenanigans that Instagram did to kind of help a lot of us artists out. They allowed us to kind of monetize our real plays, which really allowed us to grow our channels. So, or our pages. Sorry, I can't think of what to call it. So, okay. So now I'm going to, on this one, I might score into this shape because it's very complex. I'm going to score into the shape that I need to cut out. Okay. So, and then I'm going to do my little stabby trick here. And I scored that in so that I didn't stab through things I'd have to cut off. So I'm going to go this way. Perfect. And do another one. Let's see, this way. Excuse me. And maybe one more down through here. There we go. Okay. There's that. Glue on the mat. No worries. I have a video on how to clean your cutting mat, by the way, and refresh it. This is the first new cutting mat I think I've bought in like 6 years because I've been applying the techniques in that video to keep my cutting mat clean. So I got this one especially for all the YouTube stuff I'm going to be doing. So I have a nice, pretty mat for people to look at. Makes it look, I feel like it might make it look a little cleaner, a little nicer for people, you know. It's kind of my thinking. I'm going to do one more piece. Nah, I don't have enough room there. Never mind. Okay. So now to do the same process, and let's see, use a smaller knife this time. I'll be right back. I'm gonna see if I have a smaller knife over here in my drawer. Where is it? Because I don't know where it is. Probably on the other side of the warehouse on the floor somewhere. All right, never mind. Let's, oops, get to cutting this out. I'm gonna do it cake slice style, I guess. I don't know what you call it. Yeah, maybe cake slice style. Like that. There we go. More scrap pieces for our diorama. For the 14 of you that are here watching, you're awesome. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, please do for me, just so that my other follower, YouTube will see that people are liking what they're seeing and maybe recommend it to other people or notify my subscribers that forgot that I'm streaming today. Thank you. 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 Cool. All right. So I'm going to turn this now so I don't have to try to imagine where I'm cutting on the other side. And cut off this section. That's my skewer. Cutting through the skewers. Okay, no biggie. I'll shave that off later. Turn this again. Got my knife there, my knife there. Okay, or my knife, my lining up, my lines there. Okay. Do this. And if you guys, if any of you watching this now or later, if you're watching on the afterplay, do any of these techniques and you want me to shout you out on my Instagram or even here on YouTube, post it and tag me in it, or you can even DM me and I will absolutely reshare it, because everybody who sends me and lets me know they used one of my like ideas or techniques. Be careful here with my knife. Don't want to cut my hand. I always reshare their work, and so people have been doing that more. I've gotten, I think, 3 or 4 Batcave shares. One was on Facebook, and I shared it on Facebook, but I've gotten, I think, 2 or 3 Batcaves that people have done watching my Batcave video series and how I did that giant Batcave, and I immediately reshared them because it's so exciting to see that, number one, that people actually watched my videos, and number two, that people tried the techniques, and number three, that they actually cared to let me know. So if you guys use any of this and you want to shout it out and let people know, I appreciate it, because it lets people know that they can find cool stuff here with me. I like to give credit to you guys for what you've done, and as a thank you, I'll shout you out on my Instagram and here where I can, just to kind of telegraph your work. I'm just rubbing this glue to get it off my mat before it hardens. Don't want that to get on the mat. That stuff's actually kind of hard to get off when it dries on the mat. It'll come off, but it'll leave a scar. Okay, there is our cutaway. So now we have this perfectly shaped piece to our intersecting top piece. So now let me just move some of this foam out of the way so I have some room to work. So we got our little extents box. I use the term extents because in drafting, when you wanted to trim something that was going past a certain line, or stop something, you would tell it to stop the extents, and you would define the extents. So our little extents box is a drafting term for you, or a CAD drafting term for you. I don't need this anymore, so I'm just going to peel up the tape. And you guys can see, like, it's just this way to do a quick reference and how to utilize your cutting mat. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff I just realized I'm sharing in this video. Cutting mat technique tricks, floral foam technique tricks, XPS foam technique tricks, Mod Podge technique tricks, all kinds of cool stuff. So hopefully a lot of people will watch this on the replay and get to learn something new. So here is, oh, I forgot to cut off this little chunk. There we go. Okay. Here is that. And so I'm probably going to have to do some trimming because it's not the most exact science, but there we go. So typically what I'll do is I'll line up the outer edge with a line on my mat for this. And I'll make sure that things line up before I, so see, this is tilting this way just a little bit. So that means I need to cut more out of this corner here. So I will just do that. It's closer, needs more. I'm gonna score it because I need, it's gonna be about, see there's this space here. I need that same space here to justify the merging of those surfaces. So there's my reference line. I'm just going to shave that off like this. Oop. Okay, that might be where we need it. Closer. I'm going to push this through the foam a little bit back the other way. There we go. And I'm going to sand this. I don't want to overdo it. Okay. Almost there. Just a little bit more on here. Line this back up. Line that up. Pretty darn close. I noticed this is spreading apart a little bit. It looks like the glue is, that clear glue, it does expand just a little bit as it dries, so I might have to, re-skewer this here. Whoops. There we go. Just to keep that straight. There we go. So I just put a skewer in the bottom there to keep these two blocks in the same spot. Okay. So now I feel pretty confident that I can glue this to this. That looks pretty good. Again, I'm not super worried about this edge here because that's going to get taken care of when I overlay texture at the end, which I think we might have time for. We're just over the 2-hour mark, so a little less than an hour left. So it looks like we're going to be able to pretty much sculpt this baby tonight, and then we can move on to painting. Hopefully I can do a stream next Sunday, and I will set up an upcoming stream. And you'll hopefully get a notification if you turn the notification bell on the channel. If you're a subscriber, hit that, and you will see when I post that upcoming stream and when I go live. So if you want to do that, you will know when I do this. So hopefully next Sunday. I don't think I have anything going on. I'll have to check with my wife, but I don't think I have anything going on next Sunday evening. I'm just going to be working on commissions all week and catching up a couple of secular jobs from my business, my small business that I do that is I got to get out of because my body is just hurting so much, and it just is it's a time vortex and an energy vortex. So that is why I am focusing on this for you guys now, is because I'm trying to shift my workload over to something that is not so hard on my body, and is something that something else that I hope I'm good at. You know, I don't want to say I'm good at because you've always got something to learn, but that I hope that I'm good at. So I'll let you guys be the judge of that. So I'm going to glue this piece on here. Sorry, I don't know if that was off camera. Do the spreading of the glue with the finger here. Wipe the glue off. And merge the pieces. Bam. Okay. Now, I'm going to try to turn this without messing up the alignment. Pretty good. Realign this on my lines here for reference. Awesome. Okay. Now we're going to do some more skewering. And, I have 2 packs. I thought I had 1 pack. Okay. Now I'm going to skewer this back through here, and then we'll do the Mod Podge. We'll do the trim out here and then do the Mod Podge. So break this off so that it'll have a sharp point right here. Yep, there we go. There's one. And the other one, I think I can make it through there. Let's see. Yep, I think I can do it. We'll go through here. And these are all going to provide structural support in the end too. Oop, that doesn't want to go through there. Nope. Okay. Well, maybe I'll just do a piece through here. We'll go through here. The smaller piece. How's that? Is that what you want, Diorama? Okay. I will do that. You know what? Yeah, that'll work. A little bit of a trial and error here with some of these. This is a small section of foam here, so. Okay, there we go. I think that will not do. Okay, we'll go through here then. Trial and error, trial and error. There we go. Perfect. Okay, that'll work. That'll hold it together for us. Okay, now I can trim out this indentation here. And get that shaved out of there. All right. Then we'll just go in here like this, trying to hold everything in place here so nothing too wild happens. Careful of the thumb. Oh, okay. No problem. All right. I can see where that wood is sticking out. That's not going to fly. So I will have to, I think I can I press it in there? No, I'm going to have to pull it out. That's okay. I just have new entry points for sticks now. So we'll go in here with this one. There we go. And probably just sand this out. Let me grab my sanding block and we'll just sand this one. Okay. Add a little bit. I'm just refining these intersecting edges here. Pinch my sandpaper and just slide it into that crevasse so I can round over the edges. There we go. Waiting for the glue to dry here, so we're working fast. Normally I would probably, well, I would do this slower, and then I would let the glue dry overnight in each stage so that it's really, really rigid the next time I work on it, but you get the idea. Okay, now on to the Mod Podge again. Good old Mod Podge. I could not say Mod Podge for the longest time. The first time we ever used Mod Podge when I was a kid, I still can't say it, was in 5th grade. And I don't know if you guys did a project like this in 5th grade or any grade. We got little blocks of wood, and then our teacher gave us these animal magazines that had like pictures of cool animals like cheetahs and tigers. And we were to pick out a picture that we wanted and cut it out with like an interesting shape, kind of like these edges here. And then we would Mod Podge it or glue it down onto a piece of wood. And then once the Mod Podge dried, he would grab a torch and he would torch the edges of the wood to make it look aged. And then we would I think we rubbed shoe polish or something like that onto it to make the wood look really old. And that was a little art project we did. And I honestly did not forget any of the art projects I did throughout school because I took that Mod Podge skill that I learned in 5th grade and attaching the picture to the wood block, and I've literally used that in dioramas to attach posters to brick walls and to overlap like surfaces where I wanted printed patterns to intersect. These are all these little skills that I've acquired over a lifetime, not to try to quote the movie Taken, but these are all skills that I've acquired that I don't forget and I hold on to because I like having them in my back pocket. And one of my teachers I'll never forget is my 4th grade teacher. He was all about the arts, and he had our class fold 1,000 paper cranes, origami cranes, for a class project throughout the year. I think our class ended up folding like 1,300 because we all got really, really fast at it. And I can fold a paper crane really, really quick if anybody wanted to see that someday. But because I probably folded a couple hundred of those cranes myself, I loved doing it. And then I got into folding origami when I was in 4th grade because of that, and started looking up super complex ones. I've forgotten most of them because that is kind of like if you don't do it, you forget it, because there's a lot of very specific folds. But I never forgot how to do fold the regular crane, and I never forgot how to fold the nesting crane where it's supposed to look like it's sitting in a nest. And we discovered one on accident. We discovered how you could fold a 2-headed crane. One of my buddies, that was his he like mistakenly folded and realized if you don't open a certain flap and you keep another one closed, the crane ends up having 2 heads when you're done. So I've always loved geometry. I just realized in saying this, that was probably one of my entry points into loving geometry at a young age, was all the origami we did in 4th grade and all the little art things that we did throughout school. Most of those things I have not forgotten, and I carry them into the work that I do now. And I can't think of anything right at this second, but there are probably things I have used the origami folding skills or the concepts with how I make my how I make my dioramas or pieces that I probably don't even realize I do. And so, yeah, I have to give a lot of credit to all of the people throughout my life that really pushed me in the arts. And I'm not going to shout out their names because I don't want you to go trace my whole life history. They are, yeah, they're people that I will forever be thankful to because of that. And I know it sounds a little cliche, thanking your teachers, thanking your, oh, this guy, that's true. It's honestly very true. I was one of those kids that needed that. Not to get too personal, but I had a pretty rough childhood with my family. There's, interpersonal family relationships. There were some trials going on when I was young, and certain ways I had to learn to fend for myself emotionally, and deal with trauma and deal with stress. And one of the foremost ways in which I did that, excuse me, was being artistic and creative in any way I could. And I was talking to my wife about that recently and realized how much of my creative life was informed by dealing with trauma at a young age. So sometimes you think the things that make you are a result of the problems you've gone through actually give you the things you want later in life. And here I am making YouTube videos for you fine folks about how to do all this stuff with all these little collected skills that I've gathered over a lifetime of messing with artistic things. Yes, for sure. Thank goodness for the ability to create art. If I didn't have art as a creative outlet, I would probably be in jail. I was going down the wrong path as a kid. But thankfully I got turned around when I was about 13. I've been creative my whole life, but I got turned around from that wrong path when I was about 13 and started becoming a much more mature and balanced individual. So I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to clean this up really quick. I'll show you one of my cutting mat cleanup techniques, and then we'll move on to another step. All right. Where is my denatured alcohol? There it is. Boom. Denatured alcohol. This is an incredibly powerful, not in a bad way, in a good way, chemical. Yeah, you're welcome, Jeff. Hey, yeah, I appreciate it. I don't like to make a big stink of my life and my personal things, but I figure since you guys are here, gotta talk about something, right? So, denatured alcohol. This stuff eats up glue and chemicals and paint, especially paint. You can actually use denatured alcohol to take paint off of action figures. If you ever wonder how people get some of their action figures, some of the paints it doesn't work with, but get some of their action figures free from paint, so they're fresh and they can paint them anew, denatured alcohol is one of the ways. Let me grab a scraper really quick. You're getting a mini tutorial in my video on how to renew your cutting mat. Don't worry, I'm not going to clean the whole thing. I just want to get the rough spots off, and then I'll clean it harder tomorrow. Okay. The denatured alcohol instantly dried and cured that glue. Started pulling it up, and then I could scrape it. There we go. All right, I can deal with that for now. Always retract your blades. Do not sit around the shop with blades sticking out. All right. Okay, so we're going to let this wall dry. And this was our original concept here to do this. So now we can put our diorama back together and make some decisions. Do we want to stick with this, or do we want to do something different? Now that we've assembled this, I always take, instead of finishing everything, I take a break and take a look at it, sit back. So I see I did this cut here. Now that I have this cut here, let me move this up. If I put this piece all the way up to there, it'll cover that detail. But I am going to be covering this, this, and this with the same texture, and it is going to kind of overlap. So I could play with that, but now that I'm seeing this shape, I kind of want to showcase this a little bit more. So another executive decision time. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, maybe lower, maybe right here, so that it will show off this beautiful piece right here. Let me get this right there. Okay. So I'm going to just do this with my blade really quick. And I'm just going to just do this. There we go. Oops. Making a mess. Okay. There we go. I need to cut a little bit more off, but there we go. I think that looks much better, don't you? It looks much more interesting. So this diorama is evolving and changing here as we make it, but I like it. So cut it one more time. It's a little low, or a little high, not a little low. It needs to be a little lower. That's what I meant to say. Just gotta shave another little bit off. Sorry for the camera shaking. Use my sandpaper. Oops. Oops. So now would be I could take the time to sand down the edges so they're rounded over. You don't have to do this with a block either. You can. It's actually easier to do with a loose piece of sandpaper, but I just don't have one right here, so I'm going to do it with my sanding block. There we go. You like it, Jeff? Thank you. So there is that piece. I think it looks pretty cool. What do you think? All right. Now let's see, is it worth it to add other details? I could do a piece like that. Turn this just like that. Or I could do a piece like this. That looks kind of cool. I'm not opposed to that. I didn't want to put it over here because I realized that made no sense. So once we put our figure in the diorama like that, he needs a place to walk, right? So that doesn't make sense. So I feel like it needs one more detail. Maybe we'll just do like some rubble. Maybe I could do, I guess that doesn't make much sense, rubble, because these are all full. So maybe over here. Maybe I could do some rubble like this. I don't know. What do you think? Any suggestions? Piece like that. Maybe a piece like that. That looks kind of cool. He could sit there. I could have my trooper sit there if I wanted to and just take like a break. You know, he's like, oh man, I've been driving this tank all day. Yeah, maybe I'll do that because that'd be a good ledge to sit on. Let's see what Boba looks like right there. Boba. Oh, no, he doesn't want to sit. Okay, Boba doesn't want to sit like that. So what about, yeah. Okay, Boba's legs don't bend that way because of the cod piece. So never mind. The tank trooper will. He's just got pants, so the tank trooper probably will. That looks pretty cool. I think I like that right there. I think it creates more interest. You've got two opposing curves, and then maybe we'll do some small pieces of rubble like in the corner. Smaller than that, I'll cut those down. Maybe a little piece over here. Yeah, let's do that. All right. So now we're going to do some executive decision making, and I'm going to glue these pieces down. Now that I have this piece locked down, I'm going to go ahead and glue these down because once this can be how it is when we start to spread all of our material over the rest of it. It won't matter that this is all glued down. I could do it all separately and then put it together later, but then I have to fill in all the edges. So if I just go ahead and glue it together now, the edges will get covered as I go through the process naturally. So maybe, actually, you know what? I have an idea how to make this more interesting. Maybe I could cut a chunk out of this and put brick in here. Maybe that. I'm just trying to find a way to make this even more detailed without doing like hours of work. So maybe we'll do that. Okay, so. No, okay. So now we're gonna go ahead and glue this baby in place. I like the way this looks. I'll another little tip with this glue. I don't know if Jeff, I know you're using this glue too. I don't know if you have experienced this, but I experience if I draw a circle or a square and I close it, and then I put glue on the inside, it pushes itself apart from the other pieces, because I think it either creates an opposite vacuum, or as it off gases, as it starts to cure, it pushes away. So I find if I go zigzag, or I do like a back and forth or a maze pattern or like a Greek key pattern, it glues better and it doesn't push away because it allows the off gassing to come out from in between the pieces. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that, but I've experienced it a few times, and I think that's what it is. So I'm going to use this piece of foam so I don't have to get my finger completely covered in glue to spread the glue a little bit more evenly on that piece. That's about all I need there. And do the bottom here. Do the bottom. I wait for that glue to come down. So again, I'm going to zigzag it. Hopefully you guys can see that. My hands are not covering it. And scrape this glue around. Blech. There we go. Don't fall. Okay. And we'll put this where it belongs. Foam, lift us up where we belong. Okay, and now I want to put pins in place while this is drying. Where did I put my pins? You guys, there they are. Couldn't find them. Okay. Now I'm going to pin this down. Get some more pins in the backside here. Pins right there. And now's the time to try to line things up as good as I possibly can. Yep. Okay. Do one this way. I'll do opposing angles too, kind of like a zipper. I'll kind of like use pins to kind of hold it together like a zipper might hold your pants together. I find that things stay in the right place as they're drying, even if I have to move them. So go around to the back. And sometimes on these back sides of these dioramas like this, push this back into place. I'll either leave this and just paint it black, or I'll cover it with black foam core just to make it present nicely. But we'll see how this looks when I'm done. I might put a layer of some kind of thick material like over it to give it a layer that won't crack off or look ugly. I don't know. I think that's enough. Yeah, looks pretty good to me. Okay. So if I do a piece like that, that could be pretty cool. It's going to be hard to intersect brick into this. Maybe I'll just keep it simple. Maybe I won't do that. Maybe I'll do that on a future piece. So I'm going to sand the edges here. Sometimes you can overdo it. I think if I did that, I might overdo it. Maybe I'll try that on a future project of my own. But I'm going to sand the edges here. I'm not going to sand this corner because I want it to stay flush to that edge. So I'm going to stop short by about 2 inches because that's, well, maybe a little bit less than 2 inches. Yeah. And I'm going to add a detail here. Probably won't show through, but I'm going to, maybe I won't. What I was going to do is break this and then rejoin it. But I realized once I cover this with texture, that's all going to be hidden. But that's an easy way to add some cool detail to like big rock formations so they can look like they're cracking, or like flat stone edges. Just break your piece in half, and whatever naturally breaks, just glue it right back together. And then when you paint it, it'll show up as a crack because it's a real crack. Don't do crack. Okay. Sorry, couldn't resist saying it. Okay. Now I'm gonna mark this piece because I don't want to put glue where I don't need glue. I don't want to accidentally get glue over here because that will be annoying. And here we go. You guys can't see that, can you? Okay. Over here. Boom. I'm not going to worry about pins on that because that's pretty solid. Just going to push it all together. Yep. Okay, let me back this up real quick. There you go. Pretty cool. How many minutes is 3 hours? That's 180 minutes. We are 25-ish minutes away from 3 hours. I may not exactly stop it right at 3 hours, but if we get to a point where it makes sense to keep going for a few minutes, I will keep doing that. But for now, I'm going to add some detail here to the base using the floral foam. Some maybe some stone cutoff. So if I take this piece that I cut that was the right dimension for the brick, and maybe we'll just do that. Give it one of those. I don't know. Nope, now it looks like a rock. I don't want it to look like a rock. I want it to look like a broken piece of a stone. That's not what I want. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, that's the height of my brick. So if I just, there we go. That's what I want. So that breakaway gave me all this cool texture in there. And when I Mod Podge that, it's gonna get toned down a little bit, but it should look pretty cool. So if I do that, and then I lay this piece next to it, maybe not in the corner, maybe I'll bring it out here like I was thinking. Over there. I don't know. Got to figure out where to put this. Break this again. Do a piece like this. That's cool. I like that. Bring this forward. I feel like it needs one more little piece. There we go. Now we're talking. This is where you just kind of feel it out. What looks right to you? You need some crumbly rubble. All right, I'm going to show you guys another little cool trick here. So first I'm going to glue these pieces down. And before we Mod Podge the next piece, or Mod Podge these, I'm going to get something else to glue in between here to make more rubble. All right. Glue this down. I like that. Right there. I'm not worried about the glue squishing out here because we're going to add sand and some heavy dense material to the bottom to give this more of a natural earth feel in the end. So glue that one down. I try to make these look like broken pieces of rubble and not just rocks sitting in the street. So I wanted like some flat edges. So you see I've got this flat, and these like look like they busted off of this and fell over. That's what kind of makes it look, and then of course I'll paint it the same color as this, but giving like even the broken pieces of rubble on the ground some flat edge, especially the bigger pieces, will look like they're part of that main piece there. And now, instead of using floral foam for the tinier bits, I'm going to use something else that will help define you know, the intricacy, the little itty bitty pieces that have broken off of these pieces. I'll show you what that is. Let me find it. It's down here.